Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
What's up, Phillies Nation? Before we even get started with what might be the most controversial signing of the entire offseason, I need you to understand something. What I'm about to break down for you is going to have some of you jumping out of your seats with excitement, while others are going to be screaming at their screens wondering what on earth Dave Dombrowski is thinking. This is one of those moves that could either make the front office look like absolute geniuses or have us all pulling our hair out by the All-Star break. The Philadelphia Phillies just made their first major move of the winter, and boy oh boy, is it a doozy. We're talking about a player who was literally on top of the baseball world just 2 years ago, a postseason legend who helped deliver a World Series championship. But we're also talking about a player whose recent performance has been, let's just say, troubling at best. So buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into the Adolis Garcia signing, and trust me, this story has more twists and turns than a roller coaster at Dorney Park. The news broke this Monday morning and immediately sent shockwaves through the Delaware Valley. The Philadelphia Phillies have officially agreed to terms with former Texas Rangers outfielder Adolis Garcia on a 1-year contract worth $10 million for the 2026 season. Now, if you're a casual baseball fan, or someone who doesn't obsessively follow every stat and trend like we do here, you might be thinking, this sounds pretty good. Adolis Garcia, the name alone carries weight. This is a guy who absolutely destroyed American League pitching during the 2023 postseason. A guy who earned American League Championship Series MVP honors. A guy who helped the Texas Rangers capture their first ever World Series championship. On paper, it sounds like the Phillies just landed themselves a legitimate postseason warrior. The kind of player who elevates his game when the lights are brightest and the stakes are highest. Let me take you back to October 2023, because if you weren't paying attention to the Rangers' playoff run, you missed something truly special. Adolis Garcia was absolutely unconscious during that postseason. We're talking about a player who slashed 338, 482, 726 during the playoffs. Those aren't just good numbers. Those are video game numbers, the kind of statistics that make pitchers wake up in cold sweats. He crushed 8 home runs during that playoff run. He drove in 22 runs, basically carrying the Rangers' offense on his back through multiple series. When Texas needed a big hit, Garcia delivered. When they needed someone to step up in a crucial moment, Garcia was there. He was the kind of player every championship team dreams about having. The guy who seems destined for October glory. That version of Adolis Garcia would be an absolute game changer for the Phillies. Picture him patrolling right field at Citizens Bank Park, launching moonshots into the right field seats, making highlight reel catches, and delivering clutch hits in big playoff moments. The intensity, the passion, the raw talent on display during that championship run would fit perfectly with the energy and atmosphere that Phillies fans bring to the ballpark every single night. This is a guy who plays with emotion, who celebrates big moments, who gets fans out of their seats. In theory, this should be an absolute home run of a signing, pun very much intended. But here's where we need to pump the brakes and have a serious, honest conversation about what we're actually getting. Because while it's fun to dream about championship-level Adolis Garcia showing up in Philadelphia, we need to confront the reality of what his recent performance actually looks like. And folks, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The numbers are concerning. They're not just a little bit concerning. They're alarm bells ringing at full volume concerning. We're not living in 2023 anymore. We're heading into 2026. And the player the Phillies are signing is not the same player who won that ALCS MVP award. The decline has been real, it's been significant, and it's been consistent over the past 2 seasons. Let's break down the numbers because this is where the excitement starts to fade and reality sets in. Between 2021 and 2023, Garcia was a legitimate power threat in the middle of the Rangers lineup. He peaked in 2023 with 39 home runs and 107 RBIs, the kind of production that makes him a cornerstone player for any lineup. But then, something happened. The production fell off a cliff, and I'm not talking about a gradual decline that you might expect as a player ages. I'm talking about a nosedive that should concern anyone who's paying attention to the data. Across the 2024 and 2025 seasons combined, Garcia hit only 44 home runs total. That's concerning enough on its own, but it gets worse when you look at the advanced metrics. His OPS, which is one of the best overall indicators of offensive production, has failed to crack the 700 mark in back-to-back years. For context, an OPS of 700 is generally considered about average for a major league hitter. Anything below that, and you're starting to get into below-average territory. And in 2025, Garcia posted a career-worst 665 OPS. That's not just below average, that's significantly below average. That's the kind of production you expect from a backup outfielder or a late-inning defensive replacement, not from a guy you're counting on to be a major contributor in the middle of your lineup. But wait, it gets even more troubling when you dig into the plate discipline numbers. This is where things get really dicey for a Phillies lineup that already has issues with striking out and chasing pitches outside the strike zone. Garcia has never been known for his patience at the plate. He's a free swinger, an aggressive hitter who's looking to do damage on every pitch. That approach can work when you're making consistent hard contact and your bat speed is elite. But when your bat speed starts to slow down, when pitchers figure out they can get you to chase breaking balls in the dirt or fastballs up and out of the zone, that aggressive approach becomes a massive liability. Garcia has posted an above-average on-base percentage exactly once in his entire career. Once. That means for virtually his entire time in the big leagues, he's been a below-average hitter in terms of getting on base, which is literally the most fundamental job of a hitter. So now we have to ask ourselves the $10 million question, and I mean that literally since that's what the Phillies are paying him. Which Adolis Garcia are the Phillies getting? Are they getting El Bombi, the nickname he earned for his explosive power, the player who can single-handedly change the complexion of a game with one swing of the bat? Are they getting the postseason hero who thrives under pressure and delivers when it matters most? Or are they getting a 32-year-old outfielder whose bat speed is declining, whose power numbers have cratered, and who swings at everything within a 5-foot radius of home plate? This is not a small question. This is the entire crux of whether this signing makes any sense at all. This move absolutely screams high risk. And while I understand the financial commitment is only for 1 year, which limits the downside if things go sideways, we need to talk about opportunity cost. By committing $10 million and a roster spot to Adolis Garcia, what doors are the Phillies closing? Are there other outfielders available who might provide more consistent production? Are there younger players with higher upside who could be signed for similar money? Could that $10 million be better spent on bullpen depth or starting pitching? These are legitimate questions that deserve serious consideration. This is a classic Dave Dombrowski gamble, and if you've followed his career, you know he loves these kinds of bets. He's betting on the name on the back of the baseball card, betting on the pedigree and the past success, rather than the recent trends and current production level. It's the kind of move that either makes you look brilliant or makes you look foolish, with very little middle ground. The Phillies absolutely need power in the outfield. Nobody's arguing against that. But they also desperately need consistency, plate discipline, and reliable production. When you're in World Series or bust mode, when your championship window is wide open but won't stay that way forever, you can't afford to have black holes in your lineup. You can't afford to have guys who strike out in 30% of their plate appearances and rarely walk. You can't afford to hope that a player magically rediscovers the form he had 2 years ago. When you look at the raw numbers, when you strip away the nostalgia and the highlight reels from 2023, You're looking at $10 million for a player who produced at a sub-700 OPS level last season. That's not just underwhelming, that's potentially devastating for a lineup that needs every single player to contribute. This brings us to the much bigger, more troubling pattern that I think we need to address head-on. As fans, we need to have a frank conversation about the front office's strategy when it comes to building this roster, specifically the outfield. I keep seeing the same approach over and over again, and at some point, you have to start questioning whether the strategy itself is flawed. There's an old saying that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly while expecting different results. When I look at the Adolis Garcia signing in the broader context of how the Phillies have approached the outfield over the last several years, I can't shake the feeling that we're watching the same movie play out again, just with different actors. Let's walk through the history here because the pattern is impossible to ignore. It all started with the massive 5-year, $100 million contract for Nick Castellanos before the 2022 season. Now, Castellanos has had his moments. He's been a clubhouse leader, he's had some clutch hits, and he's provided veteran presence. But let's be honest, that contract has been viewed as an overpay from almost the moment it was signed, and the rumors of his potential departure have been swirling for multiple off-seasons now. It feels like we're finally approaching the end of the Castellanos era in Philadelphia, but the way the front office has tried to build around him and supplement the outfield has been a continuous cycle of short-term fixes and reclamation projects. We've watched the organization try to develop internal options like Johan Rojas, a player who provides absolutely elite defense, the kind of center field play that makes highlight reels and saves runs. But Rojas has struggled mightily at the plate, never quite figuring out major league pitching, and you can't carry a player who can't hit, regardless of how well they field their position. We've seen mid-season trade acquisitions like Harrison Bader and Austin Hayes, veterans brought in to provide depth and production, but neither worked out the way the team hoped. We saw the attempt to sign Max Kepler on a 1-year deal last offseason, betting that a change of scenery might revive his career. And now here we are again with Adolis Garcia on another 1-year prove-it deal, hoping that the magic of Citizens Bank Park and the energy of the Philadelphia fan base will somehow turn back the clock on his career. The pattern is absolutely undeniable at this point. Instead of going out and securing a long-term cornerstone for the outfield, instead of trading for or signing someone who's in the absolute prime of their career, someone like Kyle Tucker or Cody Bellinger, players who are available right now and would immediately upgrade the roster for years to come, the Phillies continue to shop in the bargain bin. They keep looking for reclamation projects, former stars who might have one more good year left in the tank, veterans who can be had on short-term deals without major financial commitment. It's a strategy that prioritizes flexibility and financial caution over making a definitive statement and solving the problem once and for all. Dave Dombrowski seems to believe that he can identify these overlooked players, these guys who are being undervalued by the market, and squeeze one last drop of greatness out of them. Sometimes it works. Sometimes these veteran signings catch lightning in a bottle and have career resurgence seasons. But more often than not, there's a reason these players are available on short-term deals. There's a reason teams are willing to let them go. And when you look at Adolis Garcia specifically, he fits the profile of exactly the kind of player the Phillies have historically struggled with. He's a free swinger who strikes out a ton. He rarely walks, posting below-average on-base percentages throughout his career. He relies almost entirely on power, and when that power disappears due to age or declining bat speed, there's nothing else in his game to fall back on. Adding Garcia to a lineup that already features several players prone to chasing bad pitches, a lineup that can sometimes struggle with plate discipline and getting on base, feels like we're doubling down on our biggest weakness rather than addressing it. Yes, we're getting a defensive upgrade in right field. Garcia's arm is legitimate, one of the better outfield arms in baseball, and he's unquestionably a better defender than Nick Castellanos. But is a defensive upgrade worth having a designated hitter's offensive production? The Phillies need runs. They need guys who can consistently get on base for Bryce Harper and Trea Turner to drive in. They need lineup depth that forces opposing pitchers to work hard every single inning. My genuine fear is that we're looking at another Max Kepler situation, where a veteran name generates excitement in December but leaves the entire fan base frustrated and calling for changes by July. We keep patching holes with players who are on downward trajectories, hoping against hope that the electricity of a playoff race and the passionate atmosphere at Citizens Bank Park will magically revive their careers. It's a bold strategy. I'll give Dombrowski credit for being aggressive and trying to find value. But it's also a dangerous strategy for a team whose championship window won't stay open forever. Bryce Harper is 32 years old. Trea Turner is 32. Zach Wheeler is 35. Aaron Nola is 33. JT Realmuto is 34. This core group of players is aging simultaneously, and while they're all still performing at high levels, we know that decline comes fast in baseball. One injury, one down season, and suddenly your championship window slams shut. We don't have time for experiments. We don't have time to hope that guys figure it out. We need solutions, not stopgaps. We need players who are going to contribute right now, consistently, without question marks attached. So here's where we stand with the Adolis Garcia signing. The Phillies have committed 1 year and $10 million to a player who could realistically go one of two very different directions. In the best-case scenario, Garcia rediscovers the form that made him an MVP candidate and postseason legend. He crushes 25 to 30 home runs, plays excellent defense in right field, and becomes a fan favorite at Citizens Bank Park. His passion and intensity fit perfectly with the Philly fan base, and he delivers big hits in crucial moments during another deep playoff run. If that version of Garcia shows up, Dave Dombrowski looks like an absolute genius. The narrative becomes all about how he identified a buy low opportunity, brought in a proven winner, and got elite production at a bargain price. Everyone celebrates, and the signing goes down as one of the savviest moves of the offseason. But we also have to confront the worst-case scenario, and given Garcia's recent track record, this isn't some wild hypothetical. In the worst-case scenario, Garcia continues the decline we've seen over the past 2 seasons. He struggles with major league velocity, chases breaking balls out of the zone, strikes out at an alarming rate, and posts another sub-700 OPS season. He becomes a liability in the lineup, a black hole where rallies go to die, and by July, the entire fan base is screaming for the front office to make a trade and upgrade the position. The team misses the playoffs or exits early because they couldn't generate enough offense, and everyone looks back at this signing as emblematic of the franchise's flawed approach to roster construction. That's the risk here, and it's not a small one. The financial risk is minimal. I'll absolutely concede that point. 1 year and $10 million won't cripple the franchise if things go poorly. The Phillies can absorb that hit and move on next offseason. But the opportunity cost and the competitive cost could be significant. Every game matters when you're chasing division titles and playoff positioning. Every at-bat matters when you're trying to manufacture runs against elite pitching. If Garcia isn't producing, if he's making outs at a high rate and not contributing offensively, that's actively hurting the team's chances of achieving their ultimate goal. And in a division as competitive as the National League East, where the Braves and Mets are also trying to win championships, you can't afford to give away games because of poor offensive production. I want to be clear about something. I'm not rooting against Adolis Garcia. I would love nothing more than to eat my words and watch him have a monster season in a Phillies uniform. I would be thrilled to be wrong about this. If he comes to Philadelphia and mashes 35 home runs while playing Gold Glove caliber defense in right field, I will happily stand corrected and celebrate right alongside everyone else. Baseball is full of redemption stories, full of players who bounce back from down seasons and prove their doubters wrong. It's one of the things that makes this sport so compelling. So there's absolutely a chance, maybe even a decent chance, that Garcia figures things out and returns to being a productive major league player. But hope is not a strategy. Optimism is wonderful, but it can't be the foundation of your decision-making process when you're trying to build a championship roster. You have to make moves based on data, based on trends, based on realistic projections of what a player is likely to produce. And when you look at the data objectively, when you remove the emotion and the nostalgia for Garcia's 2023 playoff performance, the projection is concerning. Aging power hitters who rely on bat speed and have poor plate discipline rarely age gracefully. The decline is usually sharp and happens faster than teams anticipate. I hope I'm wrong, I genuinely do. But the track record of these kinds of signings, these attempts to recapture past glory with aging veterans, is not encouraging. The broader question that this signing raises is about the Phillies' overall philosophy and approach. Are they truly going all in to win a championship in 2026, or are they trying to win while maintaining financial flexibility for the future? Because you can't really do both. If you're in win-now mode, you go out and get Kyle Tucker, even if it costs you top prospects. You extend Bryce Harper if he wants more years. You don't worry about the luxury tax implications. You just stack your roster with the best possible players and worry about the consequences later. But if you're trying to maintain flexibility, if you're concerned about prospect capital and future payroll commitments, then you're not really all in. You're trying to win without fully committing, and that's how you end up with a roster full of short-term patches and question marks. Dave Dombrowski has built World Series champions before. He knows what it takes. He's not afraid to make big moves when he believes it's the right call. But I can't help but wonder if the financial realities in Philadelphia are constraining his ability to operate the way he did in Boston or Detroit. Is ownership truly committed to doing whatever it takes to win? Or are there budget restrictions that force the front office to get creative with these lower-cost veteran signings? These are questions we may never get definitive answers to, but they're worth asking because the pattern of behavior suggests something is preventing the team from making the big splash moves that would definitively upgrade the roster. Looking at the National League landscape, looking at the teams the Phillies will be competing against for a championship, you have to wonder if this roster as currently constructed is good enough. The Dodgers just won the World Series, and they're adding more pieces. The Braves are retooling after an injury-plagued season. The Mets have deep pockets and are clearly trying to win now. The Padres have an incredibly talented young core. The competition is fierce, and every team is trying to get better. Is adding Adolis Garcia enough to keep pace? Is swapping him in for Nick Castellanos, or whoever ends up being the odd man out in the outfield, enough of an upgrade to change the Phillies' championship odds in a meaningful way? I have my doubts. What the Phillies need more than anything is consistency and depth. They need players who are going to show up every single night and contribute. They need a deep roster that can withstand injuries and slumps. They need multiple players capable of carrying the offense when the stars are struggling. And while Garcia provides some upside, he also comes with significant risk and volatility. In a perfect world, he'd be your fourth outfielder, your right-handed power bat off the bench who can spell the regulars and provide a spark in certain matchups. But if he's penciled into the starting lineup every day, if the team is counting on him for consistent production, that's when things get dicey. The starting pitching rotation looks solid with Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and hopefully some combination of Ranger Suarez, Christopher Sanchez, and other options. The bullpen needs work, but has some intriguing pieces. The infield is absolutely stacked with Harper, Turner, Bryson Stott, and whoever ends up at third base. JT Realmuto behind the plate is still one of the best catchers in baseball. The core foundation is strong, but the outfield remains a question mark, and this Garcia signing doesn't definitively answer that question. It adds another variable, another player to evaluate, another wait-and-see situation. For a team that should be operating with urgency and certainty, that's frustrating. So here's my bottom line after breaking down every angle of this move. The Philadelphia Phillies have signed Adolis Garcia to a 1-year, $10 million contract. It's low financial risk, but high competitive risk because of the opportunity cost involved. If Garcia catches fire and rediscovers his 2023 form, Dombrowski looks brilliant, and the Phillies potentially added a crucial piece to a championship puzzle. If Garcia continues his recent struggles and can't provide consistent offensive production, we're going to be having very different conversations come July, and the fan base is going to be rightfully frustrated that more wasn't done to address the outfield. It's an upgrade defensively over Castellanos, absolutely. But it's a massive question mark offensively, and that's what concerns me most. Is this a masterstroke by the front office, or is it the definition of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting different results? Time will tell, but I know where I'm leaning right now. All right, Phillies Nation, that's the complete breakdown of the Adolis Garcia signing, and I want to hear from you. Do you trust Garcia to bounce back and have a productive season? Are you excited about this move, or are you frustrated that the team didn't go bigger and land someone like Kyle Tucker or Cody Bellinger? Should the Phillies have spent that $10 million elsewhere? Or is this exactly the kind of calculated risk they should be taking? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I read every single one and I want to get a real debate going here. If you enjoyed this deep dive and breakdown, make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and turn on those notifications so you never miss an update. We're covering every single move of this offseason, every rumor, every signing, every trade, because we don't just watch the Phillies, we live and breathe this team. Thank you so much for tuning in and giving me your time today. Stay passionate, stay loud, stay engaged, and as always, let's go Phillies.